I'm going to bring on our first guest, and let me introduce you to her. Her name is Lea Kayali, and she's an organizer with the Palestinian Youth Movement, PYM, a transnational independent grassroots movement of young Palestinians and Arabs in diaspora. In her organizing, she has supported the Evict Elbit campaign, which ousted the weapons manufacturer from their innovation hub in Massachusetts, and was involved in the Harvard Out of Occupied Palestine encampment. She is currently organizing with the PYM's Mask Off MAERSK campaign, which aims to expose the logistics giant's role in facilitating the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. So welcome, Lea.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Katie.
Of course. So tell us about this Masks Off MAERSK campaign.
Yeah, of course. So thanks again for having us. And, I think where we can start with the Mask Off MAERSK campaign, which we launched, the Palestinian Youth Movement launched in the spring of this year. So for months, we've been ringing the alarm bells that MAERSK, which is a company many people have probably never heard of, but is actually one of the largest players in the shipping and logistics world, one of the most profitable companies in the world, is also one of Israel's leading partners in genocide. So for months, we have known that MAERSK has been transporting millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of weapons parts to companies like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Elbit Systems. But this latest development in the campaign is that we were able to do some research and publish a report that shows not only sort of the general complicity that we knew MAERSK was involved in, but actually the specific commercial lines that include shipments directly to the Israeli Ministry of Defense. So in the last year, our research shows that MAERSK has facilitated over 2,100 such shipments to the Ministry of Defense, which totals tens of thousands of tons of military cargo. Many of these ships have docked in the port of Algeciras in Spain on their way to occupied Palestine to be used for the genocide. And so when we discovered that, we traced it back and realized that over 900 of these, 2,100 plus shipments were actually in violation of the Spanish arms embargo. So when we published those reports on November 4th, Spain, was pressured to respond to what we found. And they saw that, in fact, of course, our findings were correct, that Spain was carrying MAERSK was carrying military cargo to the Israeli Ministry of Defense through Spanish ports. And they had to turn back 3 MAERSK ships that were carrying such shipments. That happened on November 7th. And since then, we've seen those ships dock in the port of Tangiers in Morocco, where they were met with popular resistance, people taking to the streets, swarming the dock in protest, in opposition to their government's complicity. And since then, we suspect that these ships will be headed to occupied Palestine to be used in furtherance of the genocide. But this shift from being able to ring the alarm bells generally about this complicit company to being able to particularly identify the ways in which MAERSK is complicit in the genocide gives a lot of power to this movement for a people's arms embargo.
Right. And so what is a people's arms embargo?
The idea behind a people's arms embargo is that we have, whether you're a Palestinian in diaspora like myself or someone in solidarity with our struggle, we've been for over a year now, taking to the streets, trying to pull every lever that we can or that we're told in our society gives us power over our government. And we've seen that none of that has worked. Both the mainstream parties in the US have been completely in lockstep with Israeli interests. And a people's arms embargo is the demand that, we see that this government has not even entertained an arms embargo of Israel, despite over 1 year of bankrolling and being a partner in their genocide. So we, the people, are going to, enforce an arms embargo upon Israel. We will target the companies most directly complicit themselves. And so MAERSK needs to be one of the main targets when we talk about that, because this is when we talk about shippings and logistics companies, they're the kind of companies that are the through line between all of the weapons manufacturers that you've heard about in the news. They're the vehicle, basically a merchant of death, transporting these parts of weaponry, parts of armored vehicles, tanks, vehicles used as rocket launchers. Maersk is shipping all of those parts to be used in the genocide. So a people's arms embargo is going straight to the supply line that the Zionists are using to devastate Gaza.
And is this having any impact on the company's finances, on Maersk's finances?
So we haven't published any findings that of Maersk's finances yet, but we know that grassroots organizing has impacted war profiteers in the past, and we suspect that we can use that lever on Maersk too. For example, I've previously been involved in an Evict Elbit campaign based in my locale out of the Cambridge and Boston area. We saw in that work that we were able to contribute to an international campaign against Elbit systems that did result in, decreased financial success of Elbit, and also led to disinvestment from banks like Chase Bank, Scotiabank, that were invested in this company. So we suspect that a massive pressure campaign will reap those sort of rewards for the movement. And fundamentally, our strategy is to use our people power, the power of the masses, like the one tool that we have over our enemies, to change the equation of profit. We know that Maersk will drop these contracts when it's no longer profitable for them to be drenched in the blood of the Palestinian people.
Now, Algeciras, by the way, that's how you say it in Spain with the theta. I also want to share that I got very bad food poisoning there once, and when I was coming back from Morocco, we went to Algeciras and then took a train, and I got very, very bad food poisoning. So shame on them for that as well. Another attack that they are responsible for.
That's actually, that's the second demand of the campaign, actually, is to stop giving Katie Halper
reparations for me and reparations for Katie Halper. Yeah. Really, it was debilitating. I'm not going to get into details, but let's just say it was terrible for the people in the train car with me as well. So I want to ask you, how and why did you target this company, and how did you find out what you have found out about them, to the extent that you can share that?
Yeah. So, we did extensive research before even taking up Maersk as a target. A lot of people would say, why not focus on, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics? But the reality is that these companies like that have death built into their profit model. They will be able to absorb so much pressure against them because they are inherently aligned with imperial interests. If you're a weapons manufacturer based in the U.S. or Israel, that is your goal. For a company like Maersk, they are a capitalist conglomerate. They will, like I said earlier, drop their contracts, we believe, if we're able to sustain enough pressure against them. For that reason, and because we could see that they had some of the highest complicity in the industry when it comes to their actual connections to those weapons companies and to the Israeli Ministry of Defense directly, Maersk, sort of was the obvious target for a people's arms embargo campaign. And when it comes to the research that we've most recently produced, this was a grassroots research effort run by our organizers throughout the Palestinian Youth Movement, looking at, commercial documents called bills of lading that companies like Maersk have to report to the governments that they plan to dock in. And we were able to get information from those documents and look at the codes used in the product descriptions to figure out specifically what it is that Maersk has been shipping, and to expose the fact that they've been flouting the Spanish arms embargo by shipping parts of weapons, parts of armored vehicles, tactical vehicles through Spanish ports.
And we actually have some images. Let's take a look at this pretty inspiring protest that we saw taking place in Morocco. So there it is. That's at the port, right?
That's right. So we saw partners in Morocco mobilize pretty immediately as soon as the Maersk ship docked in the port of Tangiers. It's worth noting that Maersk actually owns and operates 2 terminals in that port. So another reason we've focused on this campaign is through tracing MAERSK's complicity, we're exposing a lot of what's wrong about a system run by capitalist and imperialist greed, that Moroccans don't even have a say. The people of Morocco are not able to exercise their power to prevent MAERSK from docking, but we could see from that photo from the mobilization in the streets that Moroccans, the people of Morocco are against this complicity that MAERSK, is docking.
Right. And we also have a photo, a great cover story from El País, which talks about what happened. Let's
That's
see.
right. Yeah.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so El País is the leading newspaper in Spain that was the first Spanish paper to break this story based on our research that we published with Progressive International. And this led, the investigation that El País reporters did led to basically progressive and left forces within Spain or within Catalan to be pressuring the Spanish government to actually make good on the arms embargo that they had worked
Right.
hard to get their government to pass.
Yeah. Yeah. So and saying how they blocked, they denied the docking of these two ships with Israeli arms. So let's look for with arms for Israel. Let's look at you guys put out this really great report. I'm going to screen share for a second. And this report has some really important information and also images. So here's the report. As you can see, evidence of MAERSK shipments to Israeli military. And here's the summary. Here is where you go through the shipments to Israeli Ministry of Defense over the course of a year, and you categorize everything. You talk about the number of shipments, the weight, the code, and here I want to show this image. So here is Israeli soldiers are seen on a Neymar APC near Palestine Square in Gaza City's Ramal neighborhood. So just so people get a sense of what kind of equipment is coming through, it's stuff like this, and look
Totally.
at like that disgusting devastation
Smug
that they
look of
leave.
the soldiers too, yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, they have their
the
thumbs up,
Neymar,
they're
the
smiling.
Eitan, yeah, and the Merkava obviously are 3 of the sort of, most widely used weapons of death, vehicles of death in Gaza. So when we talk about these armored personnel, carriers, if you're not someone familiar with military language, you might not realize that what we're looking at is basically a tank that is being used to pulverize the streets of Gaza. When we talk about something like the heavy tactical vehicles, they're called HEMTTs, the Oshkosh vehicles, which I believe,
Yeah,
we have another photo of at
yeah,
some point, or
I'll
it's,
go to that now.
even, yeah, next in the next photo
Yeah,
in the
this is
report.
really disgusting. This
Yeah, I
one, people
mean,
are probably have seen this.
exactly,
Absolutely
like
disgusting. Yeah,
these are the sort of vehicles and the parts of vehicles that MAERSK is shipping to the Israeli Ministry of Defense. No middleman. MAERSK is, going through other ports, of course, but to the Israeli Ministry of Defense directly. And so these vehicles, like the Oshkosh Tactical, they're used for disgusting and depraved human rights abuses against our people in Gaza, like what we see depicted here. Images of Palestinian men being rounded up and blindfolded and taken to torture or certain death. We still don't know, what happened to a lot of these men. And MAERSK is facilitating all of this.
right. And really disgusting and very inspiring to see you guys take this action. We also have a video of an action that happened. I guess this was the LA mask off October protest. Let's just take a look at that video. So congrats on that too.